So I'm like, let me just plow through these things. But then problems started coming up and I started to get distracted and there was this thing to take care of and that thing to take care of. And the day kept getting later and later and later. And I kept pushing because I'm like, I gotta go to King Spa. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I was feeling stressed about how am I going to get to King Spa? And then I had to stop and take a deep breath and realize that my ultimate self-care ritual was turning into an anxiety-creating monster. You're listening to The Creative Imposter, episode number 53. Welcome to The Creative Imposter, episode number 53. I am very happy to bring you our final theme for 2017, self-care. And you may have realized that I have been trying to pick themes as of late for the show that challenge me in some way or put me a little bit out of my comfort zone ever since we began with our theme on social justice, and then we did a theme on coaching. And you may be thinking, well, self-care, that's certainly not out of Andrea's comfort zone because she teaches yoga and meditation. She used to do body work. She's into tarot and essential oils. But the truth is, the word self-care makes me really uncomfortable. I don't know why I resist this word so much when it's true. I love all of those tools and practices for self-care. I love going to the spa. I love making my own body scrub and body lotion with essential oils. When I had a full-time job, I would get giddy with the idea of taking a mental health day from work using one of my sick days. And yet, ever since I became self-employed in 2008, I have a really hard time taking mental health days without feeling guilty. That's the thing, right? Without feeling guilty. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more on a future episode with inner voice coach Kelly Covert. This feeling that some of us who are very type A, high achievers, very ambitious, with perfectionist tendencies have, which is that if we take a break, if we slow down, if we stop doing something, if we lie down at 2:00 in the afternoon on the couch and watch one episode of our favorite Netflix show, it will turn into 10 episodes of our favorite Netflix show, and we may never get up again. It's hard to get me to take a break. And guess what, y'all? It's November. November is my birthday month. November is the month. Yes, it's true. I believe when it's your birthday, you get a whole month for your birthday. But November is a month where the weather, at least in the Midwest where I live, starts to chill and the leaves fall from the tree and we go more into this cozy, homey, introspective kind of energy, even though the holidays are right around the corner and the holidays are so contra to that natural instinct to curl up inside yourself and be alone and introspective and cozy and warm with your hot cocoa and your snuggly blanket and maybe a furry four-legged friend to snuggle up with you. The holidays call upon us to be more extroverted, to be more in a giving mode, in a go mode, to be traveling, to be moving through space, to be switching time zones, to be around large groups of people, to be eating sugary things and drinking alcoholic things and all of those sorts of holiday festivity type traditions. It's the time when you have kids or you are a kid for pageants and concerts and performances. And it's really, honestly, quite an exhausting time of year, even though a lot of us have time off and vacation time and work is closed for the holidays and whatnot. It can be really exhausting instead of rejuvenating, even as nature is calling for us to slow down and go inside, whereas spring is much more of a naturally expressive time of year. So I am celebrating my birthday month by beginning this exploration of self-care, of what it really means, of maybe redefining self-care a little bit so that it's not this self-indulgent, pampering sort of self-care, but really taking the time to look at our energy levels and what things feed us and what things drain us, and how in the midst of our work, in the midst of our normal daily life, not reserved for mental health days only, in the flow of everything else, and in the chaos of the holidays, we have the opportunity to cultivate an attitude of self-care that doesn't require us to totally check out from everything else that's going on around us. So what do I mean by that? Let me tell you a ridiculous story. A couple of weeks ago, I had a day off. And by day off, I mean that I had deadlines and I had things that were due and I had a very long to-do list. I just didn't have anywhere that I needed to be specifically at any specific time. I had no meetings, I had no clients scheduled, and I had no classes to teach. This is a rare occurrence in my schedule these days. Like a whole day with no fixed commitments. It's rare. And I thought, aha, I shall seize this day and take advantage of it to its fullest and plan a spa day at my favorite place to take a mini vacation, and that is King Spa and Sauna. It's a Korean-style spa in the suburbs of Chicago, not too far away, about a 30-minute drive outside of town. It's open 24 hours. They have a bunch of different dry saunas with different healing properties. They have hot tubs, a steam room. You can get acupressure massage. They have a really yummy cafe inside. You basically pay one low rate of around $25 to $35, depending on whether you have a coupon. And you can stay as long as you like. You turn off your cell phone, put everything in your locker, and you walk around with this little electronic arm band. So every time you decide that you want something like a massage or like a fresh ginger tea or like the most amazing seasoned salad that they have there, you just swipe your little wristband, easy peasy. And you don't have to worry about paying till you check out. It's really brilliant marketing. You can watch movies. You're encouraged to take naps. In fact, my favorite place to nap at King Spa is in the oxygen room, which is one of their newer additions. You lie on this little floor mat with a weird little wooden headrest and just drift off to the most, I don't know how to describe it, like creative dream space you could ever encounter. I always fall asleep in that room. I always have really lovely dreams, and I always wake up feeling refreshed, relaxed, and inspired. I really have been wondering what it would take to build an oxygen room in my own home, but I digress. So here I was with this whole day free and an itch to get my butt to King Spa for some well-deserved self-care. So here was the challenge. I did have a few work-related things I really needed to complete before I went. So I woke up, pulled out my to-do list, and was ready to jump on them. Here was my other challenge. I don't have a car, and there's not a great way to get to King Spa without a car. So I had put out an inquiry to some of my friends to see if anyone was available to go who does have a car, or if anyone would want to split the cost of a car for the day. No dice. So I thought, well, even though it is all the way in the suburbs, let me just look up the price on Uber or Lyft and see if maybe I can get a shared ride or something like that. And lo and behold, it wasn't too bad. At that time that I checked it, late in the morning, I could get there in a shared ride for like $16 each way. A little bit of investment, but it might be well worth it. So I'm like, let me just plow through these things. But then problems started coming up and I started to get distracted and there was this thing to take care of and that thing to take care of. And the day kept getting later and later and later. And I kept pushing because I'm like, I gotta go to King Spa. And I kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And I was feeling stressed about how am I going to get to King Spa? What if the price goes up? If I go around rush hour, it's definitely going to be more expensive. And then I had to stop and take a deep breath and realize that my ultimate self-care ritual was turning into an anxiety-creating monster. I couldn't enjoy what I was working on, and I couldn't focus because I was trying to push through it so hard. I was feeling disappointed. I was feeling like, I never get to just have a day off. I never get to just take care of myself. I am always going to be working and working and working and working. And then I said to myself, well, who is responsible for my workload and who is responsible for my schedule? The truth is, there's only one person responsible for these things, and that's me. So I decided right then and there that I was going to make a different choice. I was going to let go of King Spa for the day. There would be future opportunities. I was sure of it. And I was going to stop resisting the fact that I had things on my to-do list that were work-related that couldn't wait. However, I was going to prioritize those items on that to-do list that could be viewed as self-care and give myself some moments that I could take advantage of throughout the day to prioritize that self-care for myself. Because ultimately, what does self-care actually mean? Does it mean going to the spa? Does it mean getting a massage? Is it those things, or are those just tools? Are those just practices? Are those just like the icing on the cake? What self-care actually is taking care of yourself, feeling cared for, allowing yourself to feel nurtured. And so the baseline of that is making sure that your physical needs are being met and that you're safe. But then beyond that, you can look at some different types of needs, right? Some spiritual fulfillment. You can look at honoring your creativity. You can look at nurturing good energy or community connections, nurturing your relationships. These are all areas that, if approached in the right way, can be considered self-care. So I folded over the to-do list on my tablet and made a new list for the day, which was my self-care list. And I wrote down all the ways I felt that I could make myself feel well taken care of that day. This list included showing up live for a Facebook Live that my colleague Charlotte Alea, who I've had on the podcast before, was hosting on dream interpretation. I had RSVP'd for it, but I almost never attend those things live. I almost always watch the replay while I'm doing like 5 million other things. But I thought, no, it's an hour-ish of my life. It's interesting to me. I can take a break and just show up. Having a clean room, having my space, my physical space of my apartment. I mean, it was on my to-do list. Clean this room, clean the kitchen, do the dishes. And when I put it on the to-do list, it feels like, ugh. But when I put it on the self-care list of having a clean environment, then it feels like self-care instead of, ugh. So this was a Wednesday, feeling prepared for Thursday. I teach on Thursdays. I have 3 different groups of high school students that I work with. And sometimes I'm scrambling at the last minute Wednesday night at like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. going, I don't have a lesson planned for tomorrow. What am I going to do? Feeling prepared for Thursday before 11 p.m. the night before and taking an early bedtime so that I would be well rested for my teaching day felt like self-care. Since I couldn't go to King Spa and get in the hot tub, I thought perhaps a hot bath with essential oils would be just the thing. And in fact, this is maybe a little naughty, I figured out how to turn up the heat on my hot water heater so I could have a really hot bath. I know, it's dangerous, not recommended. Don't try that at home. But it really worked for me that day. Maybe I couldn't get a massage, but I could do some therapeutic yoga and some self-massage. Check. Making art, doing something creative, connecting with my network online, taking a trip to the teacher store to pick up supplies that I truly did need, but I could have ordered them online, and instead I chose to go to the teacher store because I find it so fun to just browse through all the different teaching supplies and get ideas for what I can do with my yoga kids and with my high school students. So, teacher store trip? Check. These were some of the things that went on my self-care list that helped me to feel productive and yet well-nurtured and cared for. There were other things on my to-do list that did not make it to the self-care list, and I decided to put those off for another day. So we're going to be exploring this idea of self-care with some different guests over the next few weeks, including some conversations that I recorded actually a few months ago that I'm finally getting caught up on, because feeling caught up is definitely one of my self-care items. So I'd like you to start thinking outside the box in this self-care category. What if self-care was, instead of this thing that you felt like you should be doing or that you needed like 8 hours in a day to complete, what if it was taking a few deep breaths in between meetings or clients? What if it was lighting a stick of incense and 3 candles in your podcast recording space before sitting down to record your podcast? What if it was reviewing your pricing structure for 2018 and giving yourself an increase, a pay raise? What if it meant asking for what you need? What if it meant giving away something for free? What if self-care was setting a boundary and saying no to something that's been draining your energy? What if it was letting go of your resistance to something that you've been really fighting against and just accepting it? What if self-care meant celebrating the holidays the way you want to celebrate them rather than the way that everyone else expects you to celebrate them? What if it meant letting go of expectations? I actually just had my final coaching call for the Singularity Circle with Isabel Rizzo, who's also been featured on this podcast. And we were celebrating what all has occurred over our last year of coaching together. And I actually articulated something in a way that I had not really thought of before, which was that I was celebrating lower expectations and stronger boundaries. I mean, honestly, holding yourself and everyone around you to the highest expectations possible can be exhausting, a major drain on your energy, at least for me. I don't know if anyone else has ever felt that way. And so if I could allow myself the space to do less, that feels like a huge weight off of my shoulders. These kinds of decisions and shifts in mindset are not easy for me. It's definitely a process, and it definitely sometimes feels selfish, and it definitely sometimes creates chaos in my mind that causes the creative imposter voice to start throwing an existential tantrum that you would not believe. For example, I have been looking at how I want my 2018 to look, both in my life and in my work, and how that reflects my schedule, how that reflects what I'm offering, how that reflects what I'm doing. And I realized that, one, I really want to create more art. And I don't want to have the expectation on my art that it is going to pay for my life. So I have to, in order to make more time and space for creating art, I have to make sure that the paid work I'm doing pays me at a high enough rate to support me physically and financially, so that I'm not worried about scrapping and taking every possible piece of work I can. I can say no, I can make choices, and make sure I'm being cared for in the way that I need while still leaving time and energy for creating art. And so I've been looking at how can I do that? Where are the places where I'm leaking money? Where are the places where I'm not making enough, where I'm spending too much time and energy for what's coming back to me? And I came to realize a few things. There are some things that are going to be changing for 2018, and they're very exciting, and I want to invite you to come along with me for this ride. This is all in the spirit of celebrating what's working, adding more value for listeners, clients, and community members, while setting higher boundaries, doing less, and making sure my needs are met so that I can meet the needs of my community more fully. Here's what I'm up to. I've been developing this theory of what it takes to have a fully integrated creative life and work style. And I've come up with this triangle, triad, trio, pyramid. I'm not sure what to call it, but it has 3 parts. What I use, and when things are going well, the 3 things that are in balance are the following: self-awareness, knowing who I am, what I need and want, how I'm feeling, engaging in personal growth and self-development. That's 1. 2 is self-expression, having a way to create, having a platform for my voice to be heard, having an audience. I'm a natural performer. I love having an audience. Thank you for being that for me. Self-expression, 2. And then the 3rd thing is intentional community. So even if I'm doing a ton of meditation and super aware of myself, and I'm creating things and I have an audience, it's just not quite enough unless I have colleagues. Being alone or having this like performer-audience relationship being the only relationship going on is not fulfilling. I need colleagues, I need friends, I need social interaction. I need other creative people around me who are also working and doing their thing, maybe with me, maybe not, but we're all seeing each other and hearing each other and bouncing ideas off of each other. And that's the intentional community part. So self-awareness, self-expression, and intentional community. Those are the 3 pillars that I'm going to be building the Creative Imposter brand off of over the next year. And as part of this need for creating more art and exploring self-expression, I've decided to launch 2 new podcasts. What? Crazy. I know, right? 2 new podcasts. One is going to be called Podcast Envy, and it's going to be all about the craft of podcasting. Why create a podcast about the craft of podcasting? Well, one of the ways that I support myself financially is by having podcasting clients. So that means if you want to start your own show and need some help and guidance, you can hire me to help you launch your show. Or once you've already launched your show, if you find that editing is just not your thing or it takes up too much time, I also provide high-level post-production services and edit podcasts like Rome Howell with Jennifer Gardner, who's been on the show, and Feel Good Effect with Robin Conley Downs, who probably will be on the show in 2018, though she doesn't know that yet. And as you know, I've been teaching high school students how to podcast through a program with After School Matters, and we've been producing a show called Power Your Story. And I'm a huge podcast listening junkie, and I have learned so much about podcasting that I've always felt like, oh, I should create an online course about how to podcast. And man, you want to talk about procrastination and resistance? I really don't want to create an online course. Everyone says you should create an online course. I don't want to create one. And I kept thinking, why am I procrastinating this? Why am I procrastinating this? It's because I don't like making them. I sign up for them and then I don't complete them. And I was like, well, what do I like doing? I like making podcasts. So instead of a stupid online course, sorry, online courses are not stupid. I just don't like making them. It's not my favorite way of self-expression. So I'm going to do a podcast instead. And everything that I would put in an online course or a freebie or a download is going to go into that podcast. And then if you still don't want to piece it all together yourself, then you can hire me for a Podcast Envy launch package or for post-production services. And that's how that's going to work. But you're going to learn a ton about podcasting from me. So that was self-care in the self-awareness category of having the presence of mind, taking the space, taking a step back and saying, I should be creating an online course. I feel resistance to that. Why? Because I don't want to do it. So what can I do instead that could have the same desired outcome? And who knows, maybe in the future I will have an online course, just not right now. The second podcast is going to be called Tea and Yoga, Meditation, Connection, and a little bit of self-care. And this came out of a need that I was feeling because all the best things that I end up creating come out of a need that I'm having. So the Tea and Yoga podcast is going to be a little incentive, a little accountability for me to get back into a very consistent meditation practice. I have to admit that I meditate so inconsistently these days, and I start to feel crazy and I start to feel overwhelmed. And I'm like, why am I feeling like this? Because I haven't been meditating. So I'm inspired by the feeling that I would get when I was on retreat in India a couple of years ago with one of my teachers, Govindas. We had this ritual during the retreat that every morning we would wake up super, super, super early. And I am not a morning person, but we would wake up so early, like sunrise, like 5 a.m. or something, and we would meditate. But before meditation, we would have morning chai. And that means we would all roll out of bed, gather in whatever little kitchen area of the place that we were staying, and we would have chai, and we would just sit. It wasn't formal meditation. Sometimes we would talk. Sometimes we would just be quiet. But we would just have that little minute, that little moment in the morning of quiet connection to warm up with some chai, to wake up slowly, and to have that communal experience together before we went into our formal meditation. and before we went into a yoga movement practice. Believe me, I'm not the person who rolls out of bed and is like, I'm ready for downward facing dog. Let's do some sun salutations. I'm not that kind of yogi. Just having that little space, that little moment together was so rewarding. And so that's what the Tea and Yoga Meditation podcast is going to be all about. And then the third thing that's happening in 2018 is a shift in the Chicago Women's Creative Collective, because many of you are not in Chicago and have expressed, especially if you're in the Creative Imposter Facebook group, you've expressed that you feel jealous of our Chicago events, which are awesome, I have to admit. So I heard you, and I've been thinking about, how do I integrate online and offline space? How do you make an online community? Because let's face it, growing engagement in a Facebook group is not easy. And I don't really love being on Facebook all that much, I'll be honest. So how do we integrate an online community with real life? So it's not separate. Oh, these are my online friends and these are my real life friends. Plus, how do we create a more cohesive, consistent community, even within the Chicago Women's Creative Collective? So I have created something I'm really excited about, which are Creative Collective Studio memberships. And this is really scary for me to announce. I did just earlier today already announce it in the Facebook group. My stomach was all in knots and it took me like 30 minutes to get it out. So these studio memberships are basically a prepay option for the in-person Chicago events that we already host, idea brunches and artist salons. So you can get a salon membership, a brunch membership, or a membership that combines both of those things and save off the individual ticket price, plus become part of an intentional community working toward the goal of seeing one of your creative projects through to fruition with the support of your community. It also now includes an online component to be integrated with our global community members who are not in Chicago. So the fourth membership that I'm offering is the Creative Imposter Global Collective Studio membership. And that is an online membership that you can participate in from anywhere as long as you have an internet connection. Yay! That's going to consist of 10 calls over the course of the year with your creative community. And there'll be mastermind-oriented calls where we will explore different creative topics that mirror the topics we have at our Chicago brunches, as well as sharing our creative work and getting feedback and getting support and having that accountability. So those studio memberships are available right now to you, whether you're in Chicago or elsewhere. You can find out about them at thecreativeimposter.com/studio memberships. And of course, I will link to them in the show notes for this episode, which can be found at thecreativeimposter.com/053. Okay, so now I feel like I'm rambling a little bit, and it's because I'm tired. And it's because I was resisting creating notes for this episode, and I had all these ideas about what I wanted to talk about and all these different podcast episodes and resources that I wanted to reference about self-care and quotes and things like that. And it just got overwhelming, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to exercise my right to self-care right now and make a choice, and that is that I'm going to record this. I'm going to speak extemporaneously. I'm not going to prep too much. And all those notes and resources and links and other podcasts and quotes that I wanted to reference, I'm going to sprinkle them throughout the Creative Imposter Facebook group over the next couple of months, along with the really exciting interviews that I have planned for you. So what does that mean? Here are a few things I want you to do to make a commitment to yourself for the ultimate self-care in all areas of your life and work: self-awareness, self-expression, and intentional community. Ready? 1, if you haven't already, join the Creative Imposter Facebook group so you can get all those extra goodies and resources. 2, get on my mailing list. You can do that at thecreativeimposter.com/magic, and I'll be sending you some self-care goodies throughout the next couple of months, promise. 3, if you need some accountability and some intentional community for 2018, check out the studio memberships at thecreativeimposter.com/studio memberships. And 4, if you are already getting into the giving spirit and you would like to wish me a happy birthday, consider donating to the Creative Imposter. Check out my Patreon page. That's something that I don't always mention, and I haven't really been getting a lot of love over there on that Patreon page, but it's basically a platform designed to crowdsource some financial support for the podcasts that I'm creating or that I will be creating. So if you get value from this, you can donate a little and get a little something back from me, or you can donate a little more and get a little more back from me. But it's just a really easy way to show financial support for what it is that I'm creating and to say that you appreciate it. And of course, you can link to that from the show notes here. So what do we got? Facebook, mailing list, studio memberships, and Patreon. Is there anything else I want to invite you to do? I think that's it. All right. This episode was mixed by Edwin Ruiz of Mondo Machine. Our theme music is by Jovia Armstrong. I thank you so much for listening and indulging me in this somewhat rambling episode about self-care. And this week, I am wishing you the opportunity for a really great mani-pedi. Just kidding. This week, I am wishing you the presence of mind to check in with yourself and see what things actually increase your energy and what things drain your energy. And start to create your own self-care list of all of the big and small ways that you can feel well taken care of.